Ramon Bain. Thank you so much for all you did. Ramon didn't just do the press. Ramon's mother was a teacher, and if you ever want anything that you write torn apart, send it to Ramon. So anything we did, we sent it to Ramon, edit it, because we know it's going to come back perfect. So we did a lot of work. Obviously, Reverend Wilson has always been there for me. He's my pastor. He's been the one who's been supportive and helped us with making sure that we did all the finances right. And the church, of course, has always been a sustaining factor for me. So thank you, Reverend Wilson, very much. And Bishop Staples, every time we ask him, every time we pick up the phone and say we need, you give. Thank you for having the players here. Thank you for our friend, Jill Gorham, who was supposed to be here, and she's in the hospital. So we're praying for her. So thank you for all that you did, and thank you for ministering to Marion. He loves you, and he loved Temple of Praise. So thank you. And then Sheba Haley, whose life has centered around my life. No matter what Sheba's doing, she's finished doing something like the big National Museum. I said, are you finished with that now? I said, I need you to come over and help me do this thing for Marion. She says, after everything I do, I know you always have something for me to do for you. So I want to thank you so much, Sheba. So I just want to talk a little bit and quickly about the process. This was a long process. We had to put it out to bid. Then we had to determine how we wanted it to be designed. It was a blank in my mind. I just knew that there was a finite space that we had to try to come up with something that will give people the essence of Marion long after everyone standing here are gone. I wasn't thinking about today. I was thinking about 100 years from today and Amen. 30 years from today.
Amen.
People who just heard about him but had never met him and didn't even live during the times he was living. That same Washington Post reporter asked me yesterday, he asked me a lot of things yesterday, but what that young man found out, this is not my first day at the rodeo. So they can ask some crazy questions, but I'm at the stage in my life where I just don't care. So he asked me, he said, well, you know, there are a lot of people coming into this city, and Marion Barry won't be known by them. And they've never met him. I said, a lot of people never met George Washington. So they never met Martin Luther King. But Marion's legacy is going to grow as we go on. He's in the fiber and the DNA of this city. He will be a legend no matter who comes into this city.
Amen. Say that.
He also asked me, how much money did you raise? And I said, it's none of your business.
Thank you.
I was so happy to be able to say that. I'm not an elected official. I'm none of your business. You can't find out. I'm not telling you. So that was fun. That's free, and I know Marion would love that. So back to the design. Christopher was very much an active part of that design. And he's not the kind of young man who sits at a table and, you know, judges on like me and Finest and Charles and all. He didn't do that. He would come up with ideas. Christopher was very, erratic. I have an idea. Well, what is it, Christopher? Let's do this. I want this quote. He was so brilliant. Everything he said, I did it. Remember that salute he gave his father at the funeral? He sat there and told me, I want to be the first up. I want to introduce Minister Farrakhan, and I want to speak. I looked at him. I said, okay, is that what you want to do? He said, yeah. I just want to tell you the story. So Reverend Wilson was sitting around the table. I was a little nervous, because he was a little ratty. I said, Reverend Wilson, go back and have a little conversation with Christopher. He wants to open up the program. I think they were in there for 2 minutes. Reverend Wilson came out, he said, he got it. He gonna tear the house up. I miss Christopher. And unfortunately, he died before this could happen, but he died in time for us to put his name on the memorial, so you'll see his name there, so he can be memorized with his father.
Yeah. Amen. Amen.
You're also going to see a quote. Oh, this is a bench. I'm going to describe what you're going to see. And there's a quote. Christopher came up with this quote. He brought it to me. And it's a quote from Maya Angelou. And she writes, Marion Barry changed America with his unmitigated gall to stand up in the ashes of where he had fallen and came back to win.
Amen.
And that was my answer to the Washington Post reporter when he started talking about controversy. I said, yeah, what's I got to do with the monument? I said, but he fell, he got back up, he got back up, he got back up, he died on his feet. So that was Christopher. And then at the base of the monument, you're going to see something that says, most people don't know. They don't know my work ethic. And they don't know about all of the fighting I've done to manage a government that was progressive and more oriented to uplift the people rather than to suppress them. That's what I want my legacy to be. I was a freedom fighter for the good economic livelihood of not only black people, but all people. That was Marion Barry.
That was.
And then you'll see on the right-hand side of the monument, the seal of the District of Columbia, because he gave his life to this city.
Yeah, he did.
And so we need to acknowledge that. And on the left-hand side, you will see a black hand and a white hand grasping each other, something like the symbol of SNCC, because he loved all people, and he fought. And some of the other things we'll talk about in a second, because Reverend Wilson's going to describe it. And then you'll see other things that are very obvious. You'll see. I just wanted to tell you how we got to those, because I wanted to talk about his history, civil rights, his love of the city, his love of people, and the fact that he was a fighter and he always came back. And I think we got that on there. And before I sit down, I want to also thank the people who always have my back, my staff and my colleagues at the Southeast Tennessee Learning Center. I want to thank you for hosting, for being out here in the cold, for putting bags and presents together, for doing all stuff that is not in your job description. Thank you so much, because I didn't want to ask anybody who was a part of Marion's life to do it. I want you to be able to sit and enjoy it and not work for a change. And so I asked them, so I want to thank you guys. I don't know where you are. Raise your hand. Thanks to everybody. You would think those are coaches and teachers and all that, so thank you. And I think from this point on, when you come, people have come, the cemetery says 15, 20 people come a week to visit here. And now they'll come to have a place to reflect, and they'll have a place to remember. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And unlike Charles, I'm not going to forget what I'm supposed to do. The next person who's coming up is my pastor, Reverend Willie Wilson, who is going to do the libations and explain the other part of this monument that also reflected Marion's pride in his African heritage. Marion loved his African heritage. He loved Africa. We went to Africa all the time. And I just have to say, and I'm not trying to be funny, I think Marion was from Guinea. And the reason I think that, because we visited Guinea, and the griot said that a lot of the people from Guinea went from there to Mississippi, which is Marion's from. So they had this big parade for us, and Marion just jumping around in the sun. I couldn't tell him from the rest of the people. I think he's from Guinea. So Reverend Wilson will describe that. Thank you so much, my pastor, Reverend Willie Wilson.
No, good. Let me give honor to God first for this blessed occasion to share in the unveiling of this most magnificent memorial monument that you will see in just a second. This kente cloth that you see before you was the cloth that was presented to me by my chief in Ghana, West Africa in 1992 when I was installed as an Ashanti Club chief. As we go forward in this libation in just a moment, before we do that, I want to share some very significant symbols on this memorial that you will be able to see, and I hope that you will be able to relate the foundation of it. There are three Adinkra symbols on this monument. Adinkra comes from the Adinkrahine of the kingdom of Marion. The Ashanti of Ghana, West Africa, defeated the king of Marion in the early 1700s, and they brought him back captive before they killed him. And he was so sorrowful at having been captured, but he had on him the Adinkra symbols. The Ashanti people adopted those Adinkra symbols, which are aphorisms, which are proverbs of wisdom and often denote the character of an individual. So on this monument, the first of which you will find is Jenyame. Jenyame means the omnipotence of God. And of course, Marion obviously, in everywhere he went, acknowledged and reverenced God. His mantra became, "Victory is mine." At a time when he was very down, I can remember when we had one of our great Unifest outdoor festivals, he was sitting on the curb with his head hung down. And I told him to come into my office. And from there, I said, "I'm going to give you a new name." And we had a ceremony at the church. I gave him the name Anwa Amal, which means bright hopes. In the common vernacular of songs that we hear today, I said to him, "You're going to be all right." And of course, he came back. We came back to, and he came back to be mayor again. So you will find on one side of this great memorial the symbol Jenyame. And then you will find Onyankapan Adom Inti, which symbolized a statement that we often hear today. That statement from the African language means, by God's will, everything will be all right.
Yes. Yes.
Many of you will know that your elders said another way, before every promise or every proposed act, if it be God's will. Then thirdly and finally, you will find Akoma Intoaso. Akoma Intoaso means linked hearts. It has two meanings. On the one, it symbolizes the fact that he had a great heart for the people. His compassion, his empathetic understanding, his desire to help the downtrodden and the dispossessed, be they returning citizens, be they the senior elders, be they the youth, all those who felt, those who needed housing, whatever their needs were. It also symbolizes the fact, as we get ready to do this libation, that the African Weltanschauung, the African worldview, knows of no beginning and ending to life. Life, rather than being lineal, is circular. We start as spirits. We come into the world through the womb of our mother as an infant, from infancy to childhood, from childhood to puberty, from puberty to young adulthood, from young adulthood to adulthood, from adulthood to elders, and then back to the spirit realm in the form of ancestors. And so today we're going to do this libation with a little assistance. We have some snaps, and of course, this alcohol symbolizes the spirit. This alcohol, of course, symbolizes the spirit. It symbolizes the two natures of man. That man is not just a physical being. The word human is a contraction of two words. The word humus, H-U-M-U-S, which means dirt, and the word man, which means spirit. So a human is spirit wrapped up in dirt. And so as we pour this libation today in this bowl, we have some very significant soils. You gotta turn that way, that's good. In that bowl, we have soils from the foot of the Great Pyramids of Egypt. We have soils from the slave dungeons at Cape Coast and Goree Island. We have soil in this bowl from Asakrangwa, the village where I was a student, the Ashanti sub-chief, and from the Gambia, where I was ordained as a Wolof priest. And I just scooped up a little soil from this ground. So we have in this bowl all of these soils. As we pour this into the soils, it's a symbol of reawakening the spirits of all of those ancestors who have gone before us. To be added, of course, Marion Barry, who's the soil from these grounds added to those soils as we pour this libation today. There's an African proverb that says, a person will never die if you call their name every day. So we will call his name not just today, but in the days to come. And having understood the meaning of those symbols, you can share in explaining to people the heart that Marion had for the people, his sense of immortality in terms of our not dying, because the Spirit of God resided in him that cannot die. So then now we pour this libation. I'd like you to call the name aloud of Marion Barry and all those other ancestors that you would like to have remembered at this time as I pour this libation. By I would taste it, but it's too strong. Let us pray. Baba yetu uliye mbinguni, jina lako litukuzwe, ufalme wako uje, mapenzi yako yatimizwe hapa duniani kama huko mbinguni. Utupe leo riziki yetu, utusamehe deni zetu kama sisi nasi tuwasamehe wadeni wetu, usitutie majaribuni, lakini utuokoe na yule mwovu, kwa kuwa ufalme ni wako na nguvu na utukufu hata milele. Amina.
To invite Mayor Bowser, Bishop Staples, Bishop Masters, Reverend Wilson to join us, of course, with Mrs. Barry for the unveiling.
No.
You all will take your seats so we can conclude the program. You will have lots of time at the end to take pictures. Thank you. Thanks so much for moving to your seats. Thank you so much. Thank you for moving to your seats as we prepare to close the program.
Thank you, folks. If you would please return.